We will call the February 25th meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First order of business is the approval of minutes. I read them and reviewed them, and they're fine. Motion?
I move that we approve the minutes for December 3rd, 2014.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. 242-1634, Willcrest, request to continue to March 25th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1635, same thing, 50 Willcrest, request to continue to March 25th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1639, 351 Willow Street.
That's the one the planning board hadn't closed, but they're basically not requiring the fence in the parking area unless there's some kind of problem. So you'll see when you read the conditions, I just said they can put the fence if they need to put the fence. So
No changes by the planning board then.
no changes.
Okay. I move that we close 242-1639, 351 Willow Street and issue a decision within 21 days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is NACC 137, 240 Charles Street, request to continue to March 11th.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. 242-1646, 1 High Street. And
They might think that they're on later, given that they were the ones I told you they called. Why don't we table and we
Yeah,
can
we'll table.
get through them.
that's the one we had. We didn't have any issues with it. It was that's the part of cleaning up the pond. And the part was that we didn't want to issue them another order without cleaning up across the way, getting that COC taken care of.
Right.
So we suggested making it date sensitive. So that's what they're going to have to come back for or talk about. I don't want to close it and make it date sensitive without them giving us some input if they care to.
Yep.
Okay. Next one is 242-1447, extension request for 2357 Turnpike Street.
So,
This needs to be
this is
read.
the, nope, this is just this continuation, an extension request for the Meadows.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Massetti are here this evening. They are working on their certificate of compliance. They have not had any extensions on this order, which was just for the Phase 3. So I think we just grant them an extension. They're working diligently. Their consultants, Earl Chase, who used to work with Mark West, has been making sure we have all the documentation we need. Mrs. Massetti's likewise been sending me reports and legal documents they've sent the conservation restriction off to the state to be signed and approved after both us and the selectmen did as well. So, and they just need to build the pool. And then we should pretty... It's an outdoor in-ground pool.
Any questions? Motion?
Move that we issue a one-year extension for 242-1447, 2357 Turnpike Street.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. I just wanted to say that Kitchen Brazil's our attorney came up with something else that they learned that I wasn't aware of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, send it to me.
So you can see it, and it says those numbers.
The right file number?
I don't know, but she said the one that something expired. I don't know.
Okay, send it to me.
But I have more information.
Right. We had a brief discussion all the owners don't sign Form A affidavits. That's kind of confusing in a condo complex, but they do sign a P&S that cites all the conditions, including the orders of conditions, references to the orders of conditions. But, so most of those were in the front complex and listed DEP number 2421169. The one at the back is 1447. So I had just said, you know, at least for the 40 units at the back, they should probably be signing something that says the DEP file number which they're subject to. So Mrs. Massetti was checking into that, and that's what we were just talking about.
That would all come under it. You have an association there anyways, right? So that would all come under the association at some point, right?
We do, and they had taken control of the complex prior to our completing the back 40 units. So the management company has been in control, and they know everything they have to do, and they're working with us to get those reports.
Documentation.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry, I don't know as well as I should how to answer your question.
No, that's
but
fine.
We're just trying to surround ourselves with a team that can help us through it.
Yeah, working progress, that's all that counts.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you very much.
they have a copy of Earl's summary of, I think, didn't you give them a copy of that? Maybe not.
No, I didn't.
No, not here.
It's in the file.
Okay.
All right.
They've done up a nice summary of everything they've collected.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for
Have a good
having us.
night.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. They're making it easy on us. And like a lot of stuff where we have to go through and ask for everything. They're listing it all out, saying, here's what we have.
It's a
and-
beautiful project, and we're very thankful, it's so cooperative.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
Okay, we have the bylaw regulations revisions.
Yep, so I have copies of what I emailed you all today, first with a typo and then without a typo.
I know, this is small project stuff, right?
Yep, so I kind of, before we had just put a list at the end, this time I tried to work it into, although I definitely want to approve this without Sean, right?
The small head that was out.
It's all wording.
Can't stop work in progress. We could go, we ain't like we can go for a record.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, I know.
Just,
So-
okay,
The first thing I noticed, this is interesting, buffer zone setbacks. So exclusive of means not considering
Yeah.
the buffer zone setbacks. So I read that and said, have I been reading these wrong all along? But I don't think so, because I don't think you intended to allow people that, so later in the document, if you go to F, it says, projects proposed under this section of the regulation shall not be eligible for any waivers provided for under any other section of the bylaw or regulations. So,
Including the subzone.
which would, well, my language would be to add that.
Oh, okay.
So everything in red is what I was either noting or
And then
adding.
your comments are in italics and parentheses.
those are the
Right.
potential changes, right?
No, the italics and parentheses are just kind of noting that that doesn't seem to make sense.
F looks good to me.
Yeah, so evidently that was just put in there by mistake, I'm sure.
Well, it wouldn't be, it would be inclusive of the
Inclusive, not-
inclusive.
right,
Maybe it's
not-
just the
not-
wrong word.
Right, that's inclusive.
What do you think, Deb?
I mean, I wasn't here when you guys accepted these, so I don't really know what the intention was, but,
Well,
No,
pretty much
it's
it was
not
Sean and
exclusive,
Al that
that's for sure.
put it together, so
Yes.
we just approved what they put in.
Well, but I remember the intent was that no small projects could qualify as a small project if they had any kind of waiver
right.
of the bylaw or the Wetlands Protection Act.
So I think it's just a typo.
And so,
Okay.
So
yeah.
we'll just change
So
that.
that was inclusive of the applicable. I'm surprised no one's ever picked up on it. It just tells you people just don't read anything, ever.
Well, we had faith in our fellow commissioners, that's what it was.
Well, not you guys. I'm talking about the people who come and apply for this thing. You would think of all the people who have read this. It's fine. I mean, the typo could have occurred after you guys reviewed and wrote the regs. It could just be something, someone writing.
Well, I think people are just so happy they're getting a small project.
Right,
And
they
a
don't
small
even-
project
they don't
fee, they're
read.
not even reading it.
I think people read it, but they kind of like glance over it, and
Right.
they don't read word for word.
Word, yeah.
So,
So F, this just brings we previously said unpaved pedestrian walkways for private use. But the state has added, if they're for private use, they have to be less than 30 inches wide. I think we have to include the state language, because if we don't, then we're conflicting with them.
Less than 30 inches is small.
Well,
Most walks are 4 feet, a small walk.
I guess we don't necessarily have to say 30 inches, because we're permitting something. The state's saying if it's going to be exempt and you don't need a permit, then it has to be less than 30 inches.
Okay,
So do we want to strike, I know I said 30 inches. I'm like,
that's small.
like
30 inches is small. That's not even
It's like a
handicap.
path.
I don't think that's even handicap accessible.
Okay.
I think strike it.
But then, or for public access on conservation property not to, what do our trails usually, 3-4 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, all that, more than 3, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 3 feet, 2 people aren't walking one way or the other.
What are they supposed to be? 6 feet by 8 feet total?
Then there's requirements for when they're handicap accessible, but I don't know what the,
Like I said, I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever, I don't think I've ever
there's scope
installed a
like that.
walk smaller than 4 feet, ever.
okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want to
So
keep it.
this is, these are our rules and regulations, so we can
But you're trying to
certainly-
make it consistent with the act.
Well, the act is exempting those projects, exempt minor activities, they don't need any kind of permit. So this is still, we're still issuing them a permit, so I would think it's at our discretion, or we could leave it to our discretion.
No, that's fine. I mean, then leave it then. Because we can always allow, or make our small project 48 inches.
Less than 48 inches?
Right.
4 feet would be better than.
Yeah, 4 feet better
Than
than,
2.5 feet.
right.
Okay.
With no exemptions, 48 inches isn't a problem.
Well, something
No.
could always still go to what used to be the J, which is, other similar projects of minimal impact, if they don't specifically qualify.
But I mean, 30 inches is a joke. I mean, 30 inches, I mean,
It's a path,
like I said, it's not even, I mean, you can't even walk a wheelchair down there.
right.
At least 4 feet you can get by.
I wonder what went into that discussion at the state level.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised somebody
You're
from
going
the,
to change the 3 feet
There's Sean.
to 4 feet as well.
just make it 4 feet or less.
I'll make
Great
it 4
timing.
4 feet for both.
Right.
Discussing these small projects.
Yeah.
Do you want to run that first one by him before
The, which one, the,
441?
yeah. Oh, we can go back to that too. We don't have to, we gotta
Take a look
let
at
them- let
the
the dust settle.
very top, 4.41, and tell me if that's how it was supposed to read, or if that's a,
This doesn't track the current language, does it?
the red is what, either my current comments or current changes. So the black is what it has always said. But then when you flip over, as we had noted, F says projects proposed under this section of the regulation shall not be eligible for any waivers provided for under any other section of the bylaw or regulations. That's always been my understanding of what the intent,
Right.
right. So I guess what we're
Couldn't do
saying
it.
is, in 4.41, that word should probably be inclusive of.
Well, maybe we should just use different language altogether up there.
Well, I think we could omit the whole second sentence, and then under F,
That covers it. F
yeah,
covers it.
F would cover it, saying, just, because people don't really understand that the waiver means their project, even if it qualifies as one of the activities, it can't be in those subzones.
Right.
Right.
Yep, so just put a period after the word 100-foot buffer zone, you mean?
Right, yeah.
Because it is the language there is a little confusing.
Yeah, definitely sort of
Yeah,
contradictory, I
'cause
would
it's-
actually
yeah,
say.
it says exclusive instead of
Exclusive.
inclusive.
Well, no, I think exclusive means, exclusive meaning without going into the applicable buffer zone. So
Oh,
I do-
okay.
At least that's how I read it. But either way, if it's
So
up to
yeah,
interpretation.
That's why, when I was looking at the interpretation, I went to, it found the, sort of legal definitions of, and so the one that seemed to most fit was defining it as omitting from consideration.
Right.
But I guess I see your point too. So we'll take that out and just leave, it applies to things, the projects in the buffer zone.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So then we just were discussing F, which had previously said unpaved pedestrian walkways for private use.
Yep.
The state has expanded their list of exemptions to include the rest of that language. But those projects would be exempted, not require any permit. So we were saying, since we're still requiring a permit, maybe we could allow a little bit more, because 30 inches isn't really a lot of walkway.
Yep, no, I agree.
So the general consensus was less than 48 inches, is what that one was. And then you're caught up.
Okay.
Okay. Jim, backing up one, we had talked today about E, sewer systems connections and stuff. You want to, I wasn't too crazy about including that in the small
This
projects.
is only, so as required by the, sewer system connections as required by the town of North Andover. So that's anybody in the watershed protection district who's required. Who didn't, there's still like, I forget how many, 20-something, 30-something people out there who were required to connect, who have still not connected. And every year we get a couple of them, and we do them as small projects. Somebody just digs a line up their driveway and connects them to the sewer that's already stubbed to them at the street.
Oh, it's, okay,
So it's only private, nobody else.
okay.
I mean, we can clarify it to the ones as required by the town of North Andover, if you
But-
wanted to
well,
say.
it doesn't matter. Well, like I said, because we still do pre and post for, I just thought, like I said, we talked today, my concern is, if it goes unmonitored, somebody come, getting somebody off the street that has no clue about wetlands or anything else coming in and installing a sewer line. And if there's dewatering or if there's whatever involved, they just dig the trench and just pump the mud into wherever and be on their happy way. So I was a little bit concerned about that part, but we have to pre and post anyways. So I guess that kind of covers it.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we're going through this, because when this was originally put together, it was a committee of people that, half of them weren't on the Conservation Commission. Some of those half were really advocates about, free reign to do anything you wanted, and wanted to expand this as much as humanly possible, so there was a lot of negotiation that went on. And to try to get some direction, I grabbed small project procedures for other towns in the area and tried to look what they did to kind of hone everybody in on what the norm is out there. But, and that's because we didn't have any experience with it, but now we've had years of experience with it. So I think we're really in a position to see what should stay, what should go, and what should be tweaked. So-
Okay, because we have not had a sewer tie-up filing as a small project as long as I've been here.
Yeah, oh no, we've had quite a few.
Really?
So the last one was out on Dale Street. I just happened to recall that one because Heidi did it. It was just after where Winter Street intersects Dale. It was a couple houses down. There was a wetland off the side of the driveway. But almost all of these are being trenched either in driveway or just next to the driveway, right up to the house.
Well, like I said, as long as we have pre and post on that, that's fine.
Yeah, and what we get into, I added some special conditions at the end too. But we did one on Bonnie Lane. Again, trying to make it easy for people who are obviously in a very sensitive area to just do this without a lot of hassle. So H just puts in the word native to vegetation. K adds the ever ubiquitous fencing. And so fencing provided does not constitute a barrier to wildlife movement. And we can say and stone walls. I just put stone walls. Again, those will provide a barrier to wildlife movement, so not applicable where we wouldn't want them. But then we allow fencing and walls at the 25-foot, so I think anybody who then proposed those things outside of the 25 would be eligible to do it under a small project.
So if I understand this right, you could, somebody could come in for a small project for fencing that does not constitute a barrier to wildlife as well as stone walls?
Correct.
Do we want to put some,
Like not, I was thinking not including retaining walls. 'Cause
Yeah.
we don't want people like grading and filling based on,
Well,
would it make sense to make this two separate letters?
okay.
But since the stone walls are, by their
Well,
nature, going...
Stone walls, you can make them
Describe
accessible for, I mean, these are stone walls, not, as you say, they're not retaining walls, but they're to define a line. of a
So
barrier.
do we want to put in our
So
dry
what you can
laid?
do is you can put gaps in them and, or put large stones out there with space to park, which still gives you the demarcation line, but it makes it wildlife friendly.
So why don't we try to make, if it's okay with everybody, make stone walls its own letter, and then define a little bit what we're including as part of the small project?
Okay. So do we want to include our dry laid field stone wall language or boulder wall or
Yep, or
not
as,
to include retaining walls?
yep, or as Doug mentioned, set something that allows passage of critters through there. I'm not, so it could be an either or.
well, we can condition that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, we can condition
Condition it
that.
when they propose the
Yep.
wall.
But I would definitely, like I said, if you want to separate that
Yeah.
between fencing and walls, I would also try and incorporate that. Retaining walls do not apply to small projects.
Yeah, how do you put that
Not
right in there?
retaining walls.
This does not apply to retaining.
Okay. So the next one is one that DEP has added to theirs, in-kind replacement of existing basement bulkheads. So basically, if your bulkhead's leaking, you want to re-pour it, put on a new, we've never had one of those, but they included it, and I figured it was kind of a actually, we did it, there was one person who asked me about it along the way, but I've never actually permitted one. Installation of a ramp for compliance with accessibility requirements, so handicap ramps, wooden ones, we've had a couple. It's maybe a little excessive to do already. I think, actually, even in the times I think we've considered them decks in the past when someone's come in, so, but it kind of lays it out and more user-friendly. N is the repair or replacement of an existing driveway servicing not more than 2 dwellings. Again, this is from the DEP exemptions, provided that all work remain within the existing limits of the driveway and all surfaces are permanently stabilized within 14 days of final grade. That's all their language.
Okay. Can we put the word in-kind repair or replacement? I was just thinking of the Forest Street where, you know, they wouldn't mind repairing the gravel with pavement.
Well, that means if you got a gravel driveway, you have to keep it gravel.
Right.
Right.
Or file.
Yeah, it actually goes on, I think that is actually it on that page. Lou and I had already reviewed in the first draft that I gave you, there's a whole bunch of utility exemptions, and DEP puts all kinds of conditions on being able to do those utility exemptions. So like, we'd have to list out all of the conditions that, I think it gets too complicated for our small project procedure. So I left utilities and roadway maintenance for DPWs out. We do have our general permit for DPW, and I think that works really well for them, so I don't see any need to.
That's worked very well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We have good communication with them as far as
You
that.
know, the way this is written, if you have a asphalt driveway down there and you're gonna rip it up and replace it with an asphalt driveway, you can do that as a small project.
Right.
Yep.
But if you have a gravel driveway and you're gonna dig that up or regrade it and then put pavement down, you can't.
Right.
There's a conflict in that.
Why so?
Because in one place, you're allowing somebody to put a asphalt pavement down, and then the other instance, he wants to put an asphalt pavement down, you say you can't do it. So
So
there's a problem.
You're saying you can't go pavement to gravel?
No, what he's saying is you got in kind, which
Right.
means if you got a gravel driveway,
You have to,
you can't put a paved driveway down.
Right.
But if you got a paved driveway, you can dig it up and replace it with another paved driveway under
Right.
this, as a small project.
well, I think the
So
danger.
I see a conflict in that situation.
I think I see a danger in the reverse, though, because there are some driveways out there that the town's approved. I know, Lou, you ran into one in your work where they were required to be gravel. So if someone came under a small project and the previous order told them that they had to have a gravel drive,
Well, then, then they got a previous order. If it's a surviving condition of that order,
right,
then they can't have a asphalt driveway unless they file for a new order of conditions and argue for what they want. The, if it wasn't a surviving condition on a previous order, then it no longer exists.
Well, it might not be a conflict, Doug, only because what Sean is saying, it's in kind. Just to come under the small project thing, if they wanted to go from gravel to pavement, then they could file an RDA and come before the commission, and it could be approved or denied. So it's,
Or they could come in under section O.
But, if you look at the work that's being done, physical work
It's
that's
the
being
same-
done,
it's the
and the effect on the wetlands gone, tearing up the existing asphalt and replacing it is just as dangerous. And if you're going to require somebody who's got a gravel driveway to file a notice of intent to do that work, why shouldn't the one who's going to rip up the existing one and replace it with asphalt also have to file a notice of intent?
Well, it's the same
Because
as the
the work that's being done is the same.
it is the same. He is right.
Yeah,
It's the
no,
same.
I understand that, but I think there are sometimes reasons why gravel is being used in a circumstance
No,
instead
but
of...
we're talking about as far as disturbance,
No, I agree.
it's the same.
Well, the disturbance during construction is, but the permanent alteration is more severe, and, I mean, you have more impervious surface with a paved driveway than you do with a gravel driveway.
Right.
And so that's the permanent alteration that I think the commission has always held requires a scrutiny of an RDA or an NOI, not limited, not permitted under the more permissive small projects.
But it's still under a small project. You're limiting the size of the project. It does get reviewed, and that can be conditioned.
Well, what if there's a driveway that is 27 feet away from a wetland currently, and it's gravel?
oh, well, it's not going to qualify.
Why?
Because it's going to need, well,
It already exists.
it already exists.
That's why
as
the
long as it
in-kind
was
exists
lawfully-
for sheds and for decks.
Right.
Because it's 27 feet away, they have it there, they can't improve it at this point in
Right.
time.
Well, I did add E to the list of the criteria that all existing structures, impervious areas to be replaced, I guess repaired or replaced, must be lawfully located or previously approved, so that people who have violations aren't coming to us and saying, I want to improve my deck.
Right.
Because that's kind of
Yeah.
problematic.
But the 27-foot driveway isn't an improvement, it isn't...
It exists, and it doesn't need a waiver because it's
Right.
already there.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's my thought and concern.
And the small projects don't get reviewed with the scrutiny that an NOI is.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a section O. So if all of a sudden we do have a driveway come in front of us that is, they want it, it's 75 feet away from a wetland, and it's a short driveway with, that's not going to require a lot of things going on, then we can always take it under a section O. But if it's the one that's 27 feet away, we're going to be hard pressed to say they can't go forward with it under a small project based upon us not having that in-kind language.
We'd be tying our hands in a way,
Right.
which I don't think we want to do.
So, I mean, in essence, if somebody's driveway is 60 feet away and it's gravel and they want to change it to an impervious pavement, then I don't think we're going to have much of a problem. And I think our administrator can say you could probably bring that as an O.
I think the other issue about not leaving it in kind is grading. If you're not replacing it in kind, I mean, this particular exemption seems to be about just letting people repair their driveways without going through a lot of hassle, just taking the pavement out, putting the new pavement in, kind of like what we do with the DPW with roads, kind of applying that same exemption. But, you know, if you have a driveway with a, you know, X% grade and you don't like that grade and you want to regrade it and, you know, but it's still a driveway and you're still in the same footprint, but you'd be out of the in-kind scenario, I would think, in that instance.
I mean, under every letter here that I can see, and I haven't done it exhaustively, but anything that we're letting somebody replace or repair has the word in-kind in front of it. In-kind replacement of existing decks regardless of size. In-kind of existing basement bulkhead, so they can't make it a bigger bulkhead. And I think we should do the same with the driveway. Again, and again, I reiterate this, section O, so that we have leeway and flexibility.
Okay.
Does that sound okay? With those thoughts in mind?
Yeah, I mean, it does, but, you know, like
I
said,
understand what you're saying, it's just that,
I mean,
you know, I would like to make it as easy as possible on people to deal with conservation, rather than have to go spend thousands of dollars on consultants to submit something to us, which is, I think, is a ridiculous tax on people.
Yeah, I don't think that's I think the small project bylaw and provisions were put in place to prevent that. For
And I
that
think
complete
knowing-
opposite reason. This didn't even exist 7 years ago.
With this discussion, too, we can then give it, you know, we're the ones who advise people what to file, and if it seems like it's just what Doug is presenting, you know, they're really not that close to a well, and it's really not about, you know, shedding hot water off of hot pavement into a vernal pool, then we can say, hey, you know, the commission might consider this as an O under their small project, and we can see how it goes. I mean, that's kind of how that last category has always worked, too.
but to be truthful, it is, I mean, not to throw myself under the bus, but it is a tough one, because as me being an installer of driveways, you know, sometimes it's very difficult, you know, with this open-ended criteria. I mean, there are grading issues. I mean, if a driveway is, like you say, 25, 30 years old, it's going to need subgrade improvements.
So do we want to?
It's just not, I mean, to me, if we can eliminate it, I would eliminate the whole thing as a small project, only because, but even still, even if we do an RDA, it still doesn't give us enough teeth to do anything anyway, so.
Well, it depends on how the RDA is titled. You know, if somebody presents a request for determination, he comes in here and designs something and has all the bells and whistles on it, and we find nothing wrong with it, then we could issue a negative determination, say, as long as you comply with what you've got written here, it's as good as an order of conditions.
Yeah, I guess.
Theoretically, if somebody came forward with that, you could look at it that way and say, hey, we couldn't do any better. We don't have to write a long order of conditions. This is good the way it stands. It's got all the bells and whistles that we would want in it.
That would be a
You know, most
subsection
times
O.
people don't present it that way, but that's,
Well, the stuff, but the subsection, you know, it's fine, but that doesn't require you to do all the bells and whistles. That's just, so I really think we should.
Pulling it out?
Pull it, because.
Do we want to say, we could do it for driveways more than 50 feet from a wetland resource area?
I'll do it that way.
So that it isn't anybody who's in some kind of critical,
well, if you're going to space it 50 feet from a wetland, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Then you do then you take the in-kind out. And if they want to replace a gravel driveway with a paved driveway, if you're more than 50 feet from the wetlands, fine, you can consider it a small
Yeah,
project.
because like I said, I mean, if the driveway is as bad, it has to be ripped up and replaced. There's going to be material going in, and grades are going to be changed.
Well, it may make sense to change the grading of the driveway.
Exactly. So I think as long as it's out of the 50, we can keep this.
Yeah.
Anything outside, you know, anything closer, then they'd have to file at least an IDA. So we have some type of what their plans are.
so the repair or replacement of an existing driveway more than 50 feet from wetland resource areas, servicing not more than 2 dwellings, blah, blah, blah.
What about vernal pools? Is that 75?
But if they're legally and lawfully located, I think what we're worried about is that work too close to a resource area wouldn't give, Lou's saying, and from, it's still a lot of work.
Right.
Too close to a resource area. As long as it's, then I think it gets kicked into legally and lawfully located. If we legally and lawfully located one 50 feet away, I think we're just concerned about giving them the space. Or we could say 75 feet from a vernal pool if we want to.
Well, like I said, they still got to file the application, so if somebody says they're on whatever street, we know, we pull the file, we know where it is. I mean, it's not like we just say, okay.
Well, no, but I think the language should be here. If we wanted 50 feet from a wetland, any other wetland, but 75 feet from a.
That's fine.
From an identified vernal pool.
Or we-
Classified and identified as a vernal pool.
Oh, and you want a certified. We don't have a lot of certified.
Otherwise, you're just saying, well, I think it's a vernal pool, and
I don't-
therefore it says
You can put
75
it, but
feet.
how many cases is that going to apply to put the whole thing?
Sharpner's Pond Road is the only bunch of driveways near vernal pools I can think of at the moment. Probably Forest Street, too. The one that we're looking at is a vernal pool, but that is like 26 feet.
My
from
old
the well.
house was, driveway was 78, right on that 75 foot away from the vernal pool. That's one reason why I think of it. It must have been far enough away because it was a paved driveway. So out of all the exceptions we have here, is this the one that is the most involved, or the one that's the most risk?
Well, like I said,
Driveways.
those, construction is, it's tough. When you get into something, you don't know till you're into it.
Yep,
That's why I had concerns about the sewer connections.
yep.
If it's in a lousy water table and they're going to put a sewer line in, there's going to be dewatering, there's going to be, and if you get a contractor that's not familiar with wetlands,
Yep.
and we've had them here many times, there could be an issue.
We could
So-
just take it out and go back to doing them as RDAs.
I think you should. I really do. I mean,
You could do it that way, too.
it's not that the RDA is just a more filing fee, but it just gives us a little bit more definitive for the people instead of just drawing something on a piece. Yeah, we're doing my driveway, and they draw something on a piece of
Either
paper.
that or consider under O, if you
If
deem
it's
that appropriate.
really an appropriate situation. Okay.
So would that also get rid of repair of existing sewer lines?
No, I think we leave that.
Leave that?
Those are just the ones required by the town in the
Right.
watershed protection district. It doesn't apply to sewer anywhere else.
Right.
Do we have septic systems on here someplace?
No, there are there's no, you can't put in a septic system. The
No,
only,
But I thought it was repair or replacement of failed septic systems.
not for small project, no.
Okay.
Mostly because, there's testing, there's
Yeah.
dewatering, there's, all kinds of trucking of materials, usually some tree cutting, those get involved.
All right, you beat that one up pretty good.
Okay, and then so I'll add in the including waivers of the 25-foot no disturbance zone or 50-foot no build zone. The rest is just a comment. So then we get down to, the procedures seem fine. It's pretty much what we follow. I mean, I don't think anything ever takes 4 weeks, which is what the time frame that you give it to be done in. The only thing, I guess, upon written acceptance of the condition list, the applicant may begin work. That should probably say, upon written acceptance of the condition list or after the pre-construction meeting. Because most often, they don't sign anything. I would say they would maybe only sign something if, there isn't even anything to sign. When we issue them the small project, we usually mail it to them, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, you have to put it not until pre-construction.
If required, because there's some projects where we don't require it.
Right.
But I would take out upon written acceptance, because
There is no.
there isn't a form or anything for written acceptance. Upon receipt of the condition list and the pre-construction meeting, if required, the applicant may begin work.
That's better, that makes
Okay.
sense, yeah, do it that way.
And what if during the pre-construction meeting, there's a disagreement?
Then that's G. Should the applicant not accept the condition list, a normal filing under the bylaw will be required.
Okay, so now that should be, should the applicant not accept the condition list or agree to the terms reached at the pre-construction meeting?
Well, the pre-construction meeting is just to review what we've written in the condition list, or inspect it usually, if they've
Yep, no.
required erosion controls.
I get that, but I think in drafting this, we have to think of, we have to word things in ways that are very clear, even though the way that it happens, you know, you go to a pre-construction meeting, there's not a problem, it's approved. I think we have to take into consideration that there's a disagreement at the pre-construction meeting, even though that meeting occurred.
But a disagreement about what?
Well, let's say that there's a pre-construction meeting and there's a disagreement as to where something should be, whether it be the shed or the new location of a driveway.
But that's all going to be written in the order they receive. It's going to reference the plan they submitted to us. It's
Yeah,
going to
actually, so a lot of those items would already be spelled out. when
everything
they
is
come
spelled out
before
in
us.
what we
They got
give
to come
them.
before us anyways.
You know, the location of things should be clear in what they submit to us.
Right.
And if it isn't, we should be questioning it at that time
Yep.
and clarify it. And if they have a disagreement, they would raise that issue at that time, hopefully. You know, if we, have a hearing here and we say we agree with the project, you can go forward, here are the conditions, then if the person, once he gets those conditions and he reads them and has second thoughts and says, I don't accept this, at that point in time,
Yeah, like.
Feels off.
Right.
it's off.
Right. So then why reference the pre-condition meeting at all, even under?
Oh, well,
Well, it should stop them from starting work
before they have the pre-construction.
Yeah, they should have the pre-construction
If it's required.
plus all the list, and they should say, yeah, I'm in agreement with this, and I'll go forward. Or if they
Okay.
don't, at that point,
We
you
should
stop
have,
things.
Yep.
plus maybe it might be a good idea, Jen, when we do condition some of this stuff, if when you go out there do a pre-construction, you have the list with what we agreed upon.
Oh, yeah, we do. We actually bring a
And let them-
pre-construction
and have them sign it.
checklist. Yep.
And have
Oh.
them sign it, so that they know, they agreed to it before they started work, and we got your John Hancock on a piece of paper that says so.
Yeah, you could do that.
I think that's what the procedure was visualized when this was drafted.
I'm just saying, for the ones, the other thing we don't want to do is make people who have gone through this process then have to come back down to the office
And sign something.
and sign something.
No, just bring the form with you.
But we don't always have pre-construction meetings.
Well, I'm just saying the ones that you do. So you're saying if we have some that you don't think we need a pre-construction, you're saying some that you don't even go to. Is that what you're telling me?
A lot of these things are just,
So minor.
they're so minor that they go and do it, and all we do is check up on them after, make sure they did it right. They're bringing in a plastic, or they're bringing in a prefab shed and putting it in X location.
That's fine. All right, I just thought maybe, if there's an issue, but we normally on small projects, we don't have that many conditions anyways.
There's like,
I mean, pruning of existing vegetation. You don't have
Right,
to
yeah.
go out there for that.
Yeah, no, I'm just,
yeah, so let's
that's fine.
keep it simple.
Leave it the way it is.
So then we just listed things that were the conditions that may be imposed: erosion control, dewatering, restrictions on vegetation species to be planted. Do we want to add native species only?
If you added it in the earlier section.
I mean, people do gardening, that doesn't include native species, I guess.
Well, they do. I think they should have I wouldn't restrict just the native species what they can plant. I don't think we want to.
Okay, so we just say that-
invasive plants in necessarily, but
I mean, I think it might be repetitive,
restrict it to native only.
because we're already restricting the species, right? So it's like a restriction within the restriction.
Well, it says
Well, we do
pruning
have
of
to-
existing, planting of new native vegetation, and gardening. I think the "and gardening" is where you get away from that, like, I don't think there's a lot of things people grow in their gardens that aren't native. So I think we distinguish between, if people wanted to put new shrubs in the buffer zone, we'd probably want them to plant, native things. But if they're, creating garden beds, we're not going to expect them to put native things in their vegetable garden, right? So does that specify it enough that they could probably do both? So I'll take it out of the conditions at the end, though, and then we can just choose. Restrictions on materials which may be hazardous, they don't even sell PT lumber anymore. Restrictions on building season, I added in pre- and post-construction inspections, because that's probably our most common. And other conditions deemed necessary.
Good old
Have we
catch-all.
ever had small projects that required dewatering?
I would say like maybe those sewer, we would want to make sure if they were doing those mandatory sewer connections, that they had a provision in there.
Those are out now.
No, the sewer connections are still in. The mandatory ones, the ones that are in the watershed protection district. We're keeping those.
Is that E?
Yes, that's one of the old ones.
Yeah.
But I thought a second ago Lou suggested getting rid of that and just leaving repair of existing sewer lines. Did I misunderstand that?
There are so few of them left.
If you take that E and you read it, you say sewer systems connections as required by the town in repair, or that means anybody with an existing sewer system is going to make repairs to it. He's going to be able to do it as a small
Again, if
project.
people have a leaking sewer pipe, we don't want to put any impediments in their way to fixing it.
I know that was the genesis of why that was placed there. It's a good thing to replace,
Right.
fix these things.
Right.
Well, what would be the time frame between an RDA and a small project?
Legal ad, notification of abutters, so 2-week legal ad, notification of abutters. I think if your sewer line's leaking,
Okay, no, I don't.
Well, you probably want to, maybe, if somebody's going to put a new sewer line in, they probably ought to indicate it as such, new sewer lines as required by the town, and then repair of existing ones, and allow them to repair existing.
so new sewer system as required by the
It
town.
has to be
repair-
required by the town if it's a new system.
Okay,
Okay,
got it.
cool.
And what did we do with the driveways?
Took them out.
We
Took it out altogether.
We took them out, okay.
But with the thought that if there was something that seemed so minor, like just ripping something up, no, replacing the pavement more than 50 feet away, we could probably do it
Yeah,
as
we
an
can do
O.
that as a case
You do
by
it
case.
under O.
As a, oh, correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's going to be now, and it's going to be,
It's going to be
stone
O
walls are
because
moving
we're
down,
on
right?
stone walls. All right, so do we want to, I know we're doing a lot of reg revisions, do we want to just vote this one so I can keep
Yeah,
doing the
let's-
updates?
Let's get it done.
Okay.
Entertain a motion?
I move that we accept as amended the small project procedures,
Second.
as drafted and amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Excellent.
Cool. I have a funny feeling High Street isn't going to show.
Yeah, I guess we'll just continue them because I don't know if we're not going to discuss it with them, I don't know.
242-1646, 1 High Street. We're just going to continue to the next meeting, which is March, what is it, 11th?
11.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, now it's decision time. First one is 242-1642, 492 Sutton Street.
It was Jack and Dale for High Street.
1642, is this?
This is the airport.
This is the airport.
I can't,
You out?
I'm out. I can still sit here though, right? You don't mind?
We'll let you sit here.
Let's make sure we copy these
That's the
double-sided.
chairman.
I don't ever use
Last
this
time you sat
version as the
I
one
did,
that
I
gets
did.
recorded.
You're talking
So
my ear.
Double-sided
Yeah, I had to.
on all the decisions.
So somebody might complain if they.
Yeah,
Yeah, that soapbox was getting high. That was funny.
Condition 33, I couldn't confirm their wetland line, but they've had a wetland line that they've been working with out there for eons with the veg management plan. I don't know how we want to deal with that. It was reflagged in the field. It's not like they just ignored it. It was reflagged, but there was no way to confirm it again.
Who flagged it?
The same Randy Christensen, who's been doing all the work out there for eons. I mean, it's Toa slope wetlands. It's not like they were crazy flat areas that I needed to dig, but just so you know, I don't know if we want to say was flagged based on, and
Yeah. I mean, normally we don't, normally we want the line to be verified. I understand why it isn't, but is this project time sensitive that we, or is it just?
well, we already
obvious?
closed it, so.
Yeah, we did close it, that's right. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm fine with,
So we need to go with it, it's pretty obvious.
well, I would put a caveat in there that the line, during the winter was, has been previously reviewed and verified, but was not re-verified for this particular application or something.
Do you have any reason to believe there's a problem with it?
I don't.
Then I'd leave it the way it is.
Just leave it, okay. Applicant owner. At 44, I put staked hay bales backed by trench siltation fence. I don't think there's any area out there where I wouldn't have them do that. They had specified that they could use just hay bales in some places, but I don't think that's the case. I don't know, $5,000 for the grading project.
Seems pretty minimal, I mean, that seems fine to me. I mean, it's just grading, it's just,
It's stormwater management improvements. 7,500, I don't know.
how many catch basins are they
I
changing?
think it's two on the end of the runway. There's two on the other end,
Out of jurisdiction.
right.
Yeah.
Although they drain to a location in jurisdiction. So maybe 7,500 for,
Yeah.
add the 2,500 for the drainage.
Those are expensive.
All right, monitoring. They had wetland markers on this site previously, and I don't know if there's any restrictions on putting anything on or near, but I spaced it, if they do every 50 feet, there's probably something out there they could put a marker on. I don't think I saw markers in this particular area. It wouldn't, there is no 25, so it would be at the edge of wetland. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 50 feet's our usual.
Well, on large
25.
sites. What's that?
Isn't it 25 usually? What we have?
Well, it's a 25 unless we've waived it, and actually, we do have to approve waivers in this one. We did approve waivers, that would be part of that was part of the closing and issuing.
I don't think it was, actually.
Waivers?
I don't think we did
Yeah, we
a
did.
waiver vote, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was why Al had them do the whole alternatives
Oh,
analysis
that's
with
right.
the EMS system.
That was the only vote we took other than closing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 50 feet then? Because it's
Every
large
50
lot.
feet they put it, but the markers themselves will be at,
Right at the line.
right, well, where there isn't a buffer zone. Some areas of the site, there's a buffer zone. They'll have to provide a SWIP at some point, so we'll get to review that. Cleaning all stormwater structures, those are all the regular. No dewatering. Oh, no snow stockpiling
Saw
signs.
that on there.
I don't know that, I don't think the airport can have any signage along the runways, so. And do you want me to clarify with Randy what the, I think pretty much they'd have to remove the snow from this area, right?
Could very well be,
Yeah, I don't think they could have it in the runout area.
No, but they also could, we don't want them dumping it in the wetlands or pushing it in the wetlands.
Right. But our signs wouldn't be in this runout area, or at the edge of it.
They don't have snow.
We should have addressed this in the hearing, the snow stockpile areas.
You want me to talk
We
with
didn't.
Randy and see what's reasonable to make sure that snow, I mean, the condition could just say, snow shall not be, dumped in wetlands. This will be a condition in perpetuity. I don't think, do we have the,
Isn't that already a condition of perpetuity?
And I'm not, the airport has no salt. They can't use any salt, so there's no salt, and they're not allowed to use salt on runways. And they don't push snow there. They push snow to the side.
They have
They can't have
Right.
the snow from the
And
runway.
they have roads that go to the side, on either side. So,
They don't stop.
I'll clarify
I
with
know that
Randy
for a fact.
before I,
Because I can see it from my go.
I've seen it, they push it off to the side.
push it
They
out.
don't push it to
Yeah,
the
they can't
end.
push
They
it.
can't,
They
yeah.
can't,
Okay, all right,
so we could condition that.
and it's not treated.
okay. All right, I'll speak with Randy about
What do you
that.
think, Doug? Could we condition that to say that they couldn't?
Well, I think, condition it to say no snow to be pushed into wetlands.
Yep. Or in buffer
The
zones?
buffer zone,
That
Well,
might
not the
be- that might
100-foot
be
buffer
tough.
zone.
well,
No disturb zone.
Right, the no disturb.
No disturb
Yeah.
zone. Okay. Then everything else is standard. All right. I think Chairman Doug, you need to call for the vote.
That's pretty much it. No stone houses.
okay, is there, do I hear a motion?
I move that we issue the order of conditions for 242-1642 as drafted and amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed?
You're against it?
Yep, they easily could have stayed 25 feet away from that, what, 5,000-something foot runway.
Okay. 3 in favor, 1 opposed.
All right, next one is 242-1639, 351 Widow.
Welcome Realty Trust.
You can enjoy. In this one, they're using the filter sock. They're a pretty level site. I did 10,000. This is the addition and the parking lot. All your standard long-term pollution prevention plan stuff. I don't think they're gonna need a SWIP, right? Are they might not be more than an acre out there. I'll ask on that. You know what, it's not in here and should be, is the foundation as-built when they put the addition on, right? To confirm it's in the proper location. Sorry, that should be in there.
You're also under number 61. The second sentence, there seems to be a disconnect in what you got written.
Yeah, that's different, because our dewatering condition is 63. Oh, so that is something's not right. This is, okay. I wondered why that wasn't in there, because the second part of the sentence is the said plan shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission. Something got cut out and edited out, the condition for the foundation as-built. So 61 is the foundation as-built condition, somehow messed up from what it should say.
Okay, correct that, I guess.
62, proposed stockade fencing will be installed a minimum of 6 inches above the ground to allow for wildlife movement. Fencing is currently proposed along the berm adjacent to the B series wetland. Additional fencing may be added outside of the 20-foot no disturbance zone if needed or required by another board or department. A plan showing the proposed location of additional fencing will be provided. That's the condition we wanted for.
When, I was just thinking, when they do get there, go for their COC, they should put that fence up in the as-built, even if it's not put in. Can they do that?
No, as-built conditions reflects what's on the ground.
Okay.
But the condition, if they wanted to
They
do
can
it,
still do it after?
well, they could do it now, they could do it as a small project.
I'm surprised, and I think he's gonna do it anyways,
Okay, well, that'll,
but I was just curious.
I can ask that at the pre-construction too. No stockpiling in 50. They'll put up more no stockpiling zones, signs. The rest is standard.
Not that I want to have you dig up the plan, but we had them, there was a designated stockpile area on that plan, right?
It's up on the new parking lot.
Okay. He's usually pretty good, he usually puts it on right away.
Yeah, we've never had a problem out there. Because
Okay.
he's got that driveway that runs all along the wetlands.
Okay. Any questions? Motion?
I move that we issue the approve the order of conditions for 242-1639 as
Second.
drafted and amended.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.